All right, get ready for a deep dive that's going to turn up the heat a bit.
Oh, yeah.
We're going deep into the world of beauty standards and taking a close look at a fascinating source, the top 10 hottest women in the world list.
Always a topic that gets people talking.
Definitely sparks some debate. And what makes this list so interesting is that it's not just a panel of experts or editors making the
Oh,
call.
right.
It's thousands of users weighing in with their votes, which gives us this really unique glimpse into what popular opinion thinks about attractiveness.
It's like a snapshot of the zeitgeist,
Yeah.
what captures the attention of the masses.
Exactly. So the big question is, what qualities are people really prioritizing when they're casting those votes? Is it purely about looks, or is there something deeper at play? What do you think?
Well, I think it's definitely more nuanced than just physical appearance.
Oh.
I mean, looks certainly play a role, but it's often about so much more talent, charisma, confidence, even the values a person embodies.
Yeah, those intangible qualities that draw you in.
Exactly. And that's what we're here to unpack today.
Love it. So let's start by running through the current top 10 as it stands on the top 10s. At number 1, we've got Scarlett Johansson.
The queen of the Marvel Universe.
Right, and she's got that indie darling thing going on, too. Then at number 2, we have Megan Fox,
Oh, a classic choice.
definitely known for her on-screen presence. And rounding out the top 3 is Kate Upton.
The supermodel who, let's be honest, broke the internet a few times.
Oh, for sure. And that mix right there already tells us something interesting, right? We've got women known for their acting chops, for their undeniable on-screen charisma, and for their modeling work.
Yeah, it suggests that visibility and fame definitely play a role in how we perceive attractiveness.
It's like a feedback loop. The more we see someone, the more familiar they become, and the more likely we are to be drawn to them.
It's a fascinating phenomenon.
Yeah.
Now, coming in at number 4, we have Jessica Alba.
The actress turned entrepreneur.
She's built quite an empire.
She has. And then shaking things up at number 5, Shakira.
Ah, the Colombian goddess.
Seriously, her music and her dance moves, there's this fiery energy that's just captivating.
It makes you wonder if those talents actually contribute to her perceived attractiveness. Does her confidence on stage, her ability to move like that, does it make her more alluring?
Right. Like, does talent itself become a multiplier for attractiveness?
I think it's definitely a factor.
Okay. Rounding out the top 10, we have Selena Gomez at number 6, Mila Kunis at number 7, Katy Perry at number 8, Angelina Jolie at number 9, and Adriana Lima at number 10.
A diverse mix of talent and beauty.
For sure. Now, I know we're kind of flying through these names, but we're going to circle back and really dissect what's going on here. Because remember, it's not just about the names on the list.
It's about understanding the why behind those names. What makes these women stand out from the crowd? What do the comments reveal about our evolving ideas of beauty and attractiveness?
Okay, so let's get into those comments, because that's where the real juicy insights are. Starting with Scarlett Johansson, one user described her as having this girl next door vibe.
Even though she's a huge movie star.
Right. It's like she manages to be both glamorous and relatable at the same time. Other users praised her versatility as an actress and her authenticity.
That word authenticity, it keeps coming up again and again in these lists.
It does, and I think it speaks to this desire for something real in a world that often feels artificial and curated, especially online.
Yeah, like we're craving a connection with something genuine.
Exactly. Now, moving on to Kate Upton, the comments about her are particularly interesting. There's this emphasis on her classic American beauty, her curves, and her vibrant personality.
And that combination, the physical attributes, along with those personality traits, it really highlights how attractiveness is multifaceted.
It's a cool package deal, right?
Exactly. And in Kate Upton's case, those iconic curves, it's almost like she's challenging traditional beauty standards. She's saying, hey, this is beautiful too.
And it's resonating with people.
It definitely is.
Okay, let's talk about Shakira. A lot of the comments center on her sultry voice, her mesmerizing dance moves, and the fact that she's just this powerhouse of talent and beauty.
She's an icon.
But I also think her confidence plays a huge role in her allure. You watch her perform, and she just owns the stage.
That's so true. There's this energy, this passion that radiates from her.
And that's magnetic, so maybe talent, when combined with confidence, becomes even more attractive.
I think you're onto something there.
All right, now let's talk about Angelina Jolie. There's this shift in the comments here, with users highlighting her sophistication, her humanitarian efforts, and this idea of her being a global icon.
It's almost like her attractiveness is amplified by her actions and values.
Exactly. Her work as a director, as a UN special envoy, it adds another dimension to how people perceive her.
It's like she's using her platform to make a difference, and that's incredibly appealing.
Totally. And it makes you think maybe hotness isn't just about aesthetics, it can also be about substance and a sense of purpose.
I completely agree. And that theme of substance also comes up in the comments about Jennifer Lawrence. Many users find her attractive because of her relatable charm, her natural beauty, and the sense that she's not trying too hard to be hot.
She's got that effortless, cool girl vibe going on.
Exactly. And it's interesting because it makes you wonder if that effortless quality is actually quite calculated, you know? Like, is it part of her carefully crafted public image, or is it genuine?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because we're not just responding to these women as individuals, right? We're also responding to the narratives and personas they present to the world.
That's so true, especially in today's world where social media plays such a huge role.
Right. It's almost impossible to separate the person from the persona. It's all part of the package.
And it makes this whole conversation about hotness even more complex.
Totally. Okay, so we've touched on the top 10 and some of the themes that are emerging, but the top 10s list doesn't stop there. They also have sections for newcomers and contenders, women who are like climbing the ranks and generating buzz.
It's like the wildcard categories, full of potential and surprises.
Right. And what's interesting is that some of these women spark even more debate and passionate discussion.
Perhaps because they're less established in the public eye, so there's more room for individual interpretation and preferences.
It's like the competition for hottest is even fiercer in those categories.
Definitely makes things more interesting.
All right, are you ready to dive into some of these rising stars and see what we can glean about the evolving landscape of beauty standards?
So absolutely. I'm always fascinated by the newcomers, those who are capturing the public's attention and kind of shaking things up.
So tell me, who's standing out to you? What names are jumping out from those newcomers and contenders lists?
Well, one that's creating a lot of buzz, and rightfully so, is Maria Zhang.
Maria Zhang, okay.
You might know her as Suki from that live-action Avatar, The Last Airbender series on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, I've heard good things about that show.
She's fantastic in it. And what's so interesting is that a lot of the comments about Maria Zhang's beauty are specifically about seeing her outside of her character's, warrior makeup.
Interesting. So it's like there's a fascination with the transformation both on screen and off.
Exactly. It's like people are drawn to this idea of her natural beauty, a kind of beauty that shines through regardless of the role she's playing.
It speaks to this idea that beauty can be so contextual, right?
Oh, for sure. Like, what we find attractive can be influenced by so many factors. The setting, the presentation, the whole package.
It makes you realize how subjective beauty can be, right?
Absolutely. What one person finds stunning, another might not even notice. It's all in the eye of the beholder.
So true. Okay, let's move on to the contender section now.
All right, the ones who are knocking on the door of the top 10 ready to make their move.
Exactly. And one name that pops up a lot here is Emma Watson.
Forever beloved as Hermione Granger.
Of course. And the comments about her, it's so interesting.
What are they saying?
Well, users praise her intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about her advocacy for women's rights.
That's a powerful voice.
She is.
Yeah.
And they also highlight her choice to embrace a more natural look, often going makeup-free.
It's like her attractiveness is intertwined with her values and actions. It's not just about her looks, it's about what she stands for.
It's like she's challenging the idea that women have to conform to certain beauty standards to be considered attractive.
Exactly. She's showing the world that beauty can be about so much more intelligence, compassion, using your voice to make a difference.
It's inspiring.
It really is. Now, another contender who's generating a lot of buzz, Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with.
And the comments about her are all about her songwriting talent, her elegant style, and that infectious joy that her music brings to people's lives.
It's like her artistry enhances her overall attractiveness.
It's like it adds this layer of depth and intrigue.
And then, of course, there's Natalie Portman.
Oh, a perennial favorite.
She's always up there on these lists.
And what's so fascinating about the comments regarding Natalie Portman is that they highlight both her looks and her intelligence.
It's like she embodies this idea that you can be both beautiful and brilliant, and that those qualities aren't mutually exclusive.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
She challenges this outdated notion that women have to choose between being valued for their looks or their intellect. It's like she's proving that you can have it all.
So inspiring. Now, as much as we love dissecting these lists, It's important to remember that they're just a snapshot in time, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They reflect a particular moment, a specific cultural context.
What's considered hot today might have been totally different 50 years ago, and it'll probably be different 50 years from now.
Exactly. Beauty standards are constantly in flux, influenced by social trends, media representation, and our ever-evolving values.
It's fascinating to think about how those ideals have shifted and changed over time. I mean, imagine showing this list to someone from like the 1950s. They'd probably be shocked.
Oh, totally. Their idea of hot would be completely different.
Like Marilyn Monroe, the icon of classic Hollywood glamour, she wouldn't even crack the top 10 on this list. Crazy, right?
It makes you wonder if her iconic status holds the same weight for younger generations, those who are exposed to a much wider range of beauty ideals.
It's a good point. And it's not just about specific individuals. Even the qualities that we consider attractive seem to change over
Oh,
time.
totally. Like, think about the emphasis on authenticity and relatability in the comments on the top tens.
Yeah, that's huge now.
I'm not sure those were top priorities back in, say, the 1960s.
Back then, it was more about elegance, sophistication, this kind of unattainable allure.
And, the rise of social media and reality TV has definitely played a role in shifting those priorities. It's made relatability a more desirable trait.
It's like we want our celebrities to be both aspirational and down to earth.
Exactly. We want them to be glamorous, but also someone we can relate to.
Okay, so we've established that beauty standards are fluid and influenced by cultural context.
Right.
But what about the role of the individual? How much do our personal experiences and preferences shape who we find attractive?
That's where things get really interesting. Because while cultural norms certainly play a role, ultimately, attraction is a deeply personal response.
Right, subjective.
What one person finds irresistible, another might find completely unappealing.
And even within our own lives, our preferences can change and evolve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Someone we might have found attractive in our teens might not hold the same appeal in our 20s or 30s.
It's like our definition of hot is constantly being rewritten as we learn, as we grow, as we experience new things.
Exactly. It's not static, it's dynamic, it's constantly evolving.
And the top tens, with its ever-changing rankings and its passionate comment sections, it gives us this amazing window into that evolution.
It's a fascinating case study for sure.
It really is. Okay, so we've unpacked the list, we delved into the comments, we've explored how beauty standards are shaped by both individual and societal forces. But now I'm curious, what are the real-world consequences of these ideas about beauty? I mean, it's one thing to talk about hotness in the abstract,
Right.
but how do these perceptions actually play out in our everyday lives? How do they impact the way we see ourselves and the way we treat each other?
That's a crucial question. Because while these lists might seem like harmless fun, the truth is that these perceptions of attractiveness have very real consequences, especially for women.
So true. We're constantly bombarded with these images of ideal beauty on TV, in movies, in magazines, on social media. It's everywhere. And it's so easy to start internalizing those standards and feeling pressured to conform.
And that pressure can be incredibly damaging. It can fuel body image issues, low self-esteem, and even contribute to disordered eating.
Yeah.
It's like there's this invisible expectation to measure up to these often unattainable ideals of beauty.
It's like this never-ending comparison game where we're constantly judging ourselves against these airbrushed, perfectly posed images. And honestly, it can be exhausting and soul-crushing.
It really can. And it's not just about physical appearance. These ideals often extend to personality traits, behavior, achievements. Women can feel pressure to be everything all at once: beautiful, successful, intelligent, kind, funny. The list goes on and on.
It's like we're supposed to be these perfect, flawless beings, and anything less than that is somehow a failure.
And unfortunately, those expectations are often intertwined with power dynamics and societal inequalities.
Right. Like historically, women have been objectified and valued primarily for their appearance.
Exactly, which has limited opportunities and reinforced patriarchal structures. So these ideas about beauty aren't just about aesthetics, they're also about control and who gets to be seen and heard in the world.
So it's not just about changing the images we see, it's about changing the way we think about beauty and attractiveness altogether. But where do we even begin to tackle such a deeply ingrained issue?
It is complex, but there are steps we can take, both individually and collectively, to disrupt these harmful narratives. One important step is to become more aware of the messages we're receiving.
Right, like to critically examine the media we consume.
Exactly. Ask yourself, Who's creating these images?
Yep.
What are their motivations? Are they perpetuating harmful stereotypes, or are they challenging those norms?
Be a conscious consumer.
Exactly. And, we can also choose to support media that promotes diverse representations of beauty, media that challenges the objectification of women.
Follow those social media accounts that celebrate body positivity and self-acceptance.
Yes. And don't underestimate the power of conversation. Talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues about these issues.
Let's challenge the idea that there's only one way to be beautiful or hot.
Absolutely. Beauty is not a one-size-fits-all concept. It's multifaceted, it's subjective, and ultimately what matters most is how we feel about ourselves and how we treat each other.
It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all people, regardless of their appearance.
Beautifully said. And I think this deep dive into the top 10s list and those insightful comments has given us a valuable framework for understanding these complex issues.
It's shown us how beauty standards are formed, how they evolve, and how they can impact our lives in such profound ways. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. If you're creating your own hottest list, what qualities would you prioritize? Think about it. Because ultimately, true beauty lies not in conforming to external standards, but in embracing our individuality and celebrating the diversity of human experience. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
And it can be so hard to escape that pressure.
It really is. It's like this constant bombardment of images telling us how we should look, how we should act, how we should be.
And it's not just the images themselves, right? It's the underlying message that beauty equals worth.
Like if you don't meet these standards, you're somehow less than.
Yeah, it's a really damaging message.
Yeah.
And it can be tough to unlearn, especially when it's reinforced by, well, pretty much everything around us.
So true. And it makes me think about like the historical context of all this, right? Because women have been objectified and valued for their appearance for centuries.
Exactly. And that's had a huge impact on gender roles and power dynamics. It's created this system where women are often judged and valued based on their looks, rather than their skills, their intelligence, their contributions.
So it's not just a superficial thing, it's a systemic issue.
Absolutely. It's about control. It's about who holds power, and it's about the messages we internalize about ourselves and each other.
It's deep. So, okay, we've talked about how problematic these beauty standards can be, but what can we actually do about it? Like, where do we even begin to dismantle these harmful narratives?
It's a big question, right? But I think awareness is a really important first step.
Yeah.
Start paying attention to the messages you're receiving from the media you consume.
Okay, so like, be more mindful of what we're watching, reading, listening to.
Exactly. And ask yourself some critical questions. Who's creating this content? What are their biases? Are they perpetuating harmful stereotypes, or are they challenging them? Are they presenting diverse representations of beauty, or are they reinforcing narrow ideals?
Like, be a conscious consumer.
Yes. And beyond just being aware, actively seek out media that celebrates diversity, that promotes body positivity, that challenges those traditional beauty standards.
So, like, follow those Instagram accounts that are all about self-love and body acceptance.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of conversation. Talk to your friends, your family, your kids. Let's start questioning these norms and challenging these ideas that have been ingrained in us for so long.
Yeah, let's redefine what it means to be beautiful or hot.
Absolutely. Let's celebrate the full spectrum of what it means to be human. Because beauty is not one size fits all. It's multifaceted, it's subjective, and it's definitely about way more than just physical appearance.
It's about embracing our individuality, our uniqueness, our flaws, everything that makes us who we are.
So well said. And I think this deep dive, looking at the top 10s list and all the passionate comments, it's really opened up some important conversations about how we perceive beauty, how those perceptions are shaped, and the impact they have on our lives.
It's been an eye-opening journey for sure. So as we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question. If you were creating your own hottest list, what qualities would you prioritize? What would your definition of hotness be? Because at the end of the day, true beauty isn't about conforming to some external standard. It's about embracing who you are, celebrating your unique qualities, and recognizing the beauty in everyone around you. That's it for a deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.